This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We're going to have the great patriot, economist, lawyer, actor Ben STEIN on later, talking about what's been going on with the abridgment of our civil liberties, our constitutional rights, with these draconian orders that are keeping people in their homes under threat of arrest and imprisonment and fine, I might add. And we're going to be talking about the various actions that Your Freedom Watch is taking. We are the only ones out there doing it. No one else is fighting China in any major way. And I'm talking about communist China, not the Chinese people who are good people. But we have brought various actions. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. I take on the powerful. I take on the mighty. I'm the only lawyer ever to have obtained a court ruling that the president of the United States committed a crime. That was Bill Clinton. Over the last several years, we had two preliminary injunctions enjoining the Obama National Security Agency from mass surveillance on the American people, which a court ruled to be almost Orwellian and unconstitutional. We succeeded in killing Obama's executive amnesty for 5 million illegal aliens. And we had the indictment, at least I did, I was working in a private capacity with other lawyers, the indictment of Cliven Bundy thrown out of court. That's now on appeal. And if you can believe this, appealed by the Trump Justice Department under William Sessions and continued under the worthless current Attorney General, Bill Barr. So we've done a lot, but this one's the most important of all, because this is life or death. This is it. There ain't no tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. We are facing a vicious killer, the coronavirus, a pandemic that spread, which we now know was leaked from a Chinese laboratory in Wuhan, China. Many people believe, and we have whistleblowers that will testify to this in secret because they could be retaliated against, that they have knowledge this was a bioweapon facility, dual use. Study viruses, bioweapon. It's the only one in China. And at the outset, when I first brought the class action lawsuit in Dallas, Texas, in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, of which I'm a member of that court, class action for Buzz Photos, a company that lost its business because of the coronavirus. I put myself in the case too, and Freedom Watch. And now we have over 1,000 putative plaintiffs and growing in that lawsuit, which at the appropriate point in time, we will seek to add them to the complaint once the case is certified as a class action. This case has the legal theory. It's not a theory. It's a fact that there's no immunity for China, communist China, that is, because they violated international treaties in producing a bioweapon. The Geneva Conventions, other conventions, is in effect a terrorist weapon. And also by violating World Health Organization regulations, of which China is a signatory, by not informing the world of this virus on a timely basis, they also lose their immunity. And that's why we can sue them in court in Dallas, Texas. And that's the theory of the case. Now, if that wasn't enough, we then brought a lawsuit for Ben STEIN for the abridgment of our civil liberties in Sacramento, California. And that was against Governor Gavin Newsom, who exceeded his authority. Others have followed suit. They followed what Ben was doing and filed lawsuits in various states. Now the people are rising up. They understand that we are becoming a Soviet-style gulag. Not only are the American people on the dole with money, we're getting socialized and communized very quickly because the Chinese forced the country into that, paying everybody money from the treasury and bankrupting us for future generations and even presently. But now we have dictatorial orders telling people that if they leave their homes, they'll be arrested and or fined. And if that wasn't enough, we then filed a criminal case at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, Holland, against the Chinese leadership, the Communist Chinese, President Xi and his Politburo, others in that laboratory in Wuhan, China. The International Criminal Court, in rapid fire order, then communicated with me and said, we're opening up an analysis of this case to decide whether to begin an investigation and to prosecute, try, and convict these Chinese criminals. And that's what they are. They're war criminals. These are crimes against humanity. They have destroyed the Western world. They've destroyed South America. They've destroyed Africa. They've destroyed Asia. I'm getting people contacting me, lawyers and others around the world, saying, Larry, help us do the same thing that you're doing in the United States. And we've already done it in Israel. I have a very fine law firm there, my partners, who brought a class action similar to the one that I brought in Dallas, Texas. That's proceeding through the courts. In Israel, it moves very, very quickly. And we expect to be in trial sometime within 3 to 6 months before 3 judges in a Jerusalem court. And we have witnesses to prove this is a bioweapon, because Israel's being destroyed too. That's a small country. They can't take what we can take. They just have a couple million people there, and they're severely hurt. So this is what we're up against at Freedom Watch. And we need your strong support. We need you to sign up for our class actions, to contribute with tax-deductible contributions. I'm putting together a team of lawyers here in the United States. I mean, there's now over 1,000 plaintiffs. Obviously, I need to bring people in. They need to be paid. Even their costs, even if they're volunteering, there's costs to representation. And also, with regard to our lawsuits elsewhere in terms of The Hague, the criminal court in Israel and around the world, and of course, Ben Stein's case. So we need your help. We need those tax-deductible contributions, and it's going basically to save you and to save your family, because our government's been checkmated. I use the term government loosely because I really don't think we have a government anymore. It's broken away from the people. It represents itself, the Democrats and the Republicans stuffing money into their pockets in Washington, D.C., pretending that they're doing things. I mean, where are our representatives right now? Hiding in their basements in their states? They won't come out. You know, they are people who obviously have security. They have the ability to insulate themselves. They should be back in Congress doing their job, not creating more stupid laws, but actually bailing out the American people right now, because although we're being socialized and communized, the fact is that our small business needs help right now. The Paycheck Protection Program ran out just about a day or so ago, and our economy is going into the tank. There was a report on Friday that China's benefiting from this. China's economy will fare better than the United States and other countries because they knew this was coming. They probably already have a vaccine, and they have 1 billion people. I mean, if they lose a couple 100,000, it's no big deal to them. They're killers over there. They killed 10,000 of their own at Tiananmen Square in 1991. They killed many more since then. If you protest in China, you're dead. They killed women, babies for a long time. I think they're probably still doing it because they devalue human life, and they wanted to reduce their population. So this is actually what they wanted. So this is the kind of thing that we're up against. And people haven't realized just how evil this regime is, because you have politicians like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and others extolling their virtues. Even George W. Bush, was so chummy with the Chinese. It was disgusting. And we're not talking again about the Chinese people. Over 30% of the people that have signed up for our class action in Dallas, Texas, are Chinese Americans and Asian Americans. They're patriotic people. They react to what's going on in Beijing the way I react as a Jewish Christian to the Jewish left in this country, or the way Alan Keyes or Demetric Penny or other Black Americans like Clarence Thomas react to the radical Black left. We call it as we see it because we're patriotic Americans. These groups are destroying the country. And now the Chinese in Beijing, they're out to destroy the United States. And that's why we need your support and we need your help. The president's been checkmated. We are now dependent on China for vital medicines, strategic medicines in all areas of medicine. And that's why he hasn't put his foot down. But it's certainly not enough to call this a Chinese virus and then to walk off. And just this week, I got a fundraising pitch from the Trump campaign saying, give us money because the president's really taking on China. I'm sorry, I don't see it. And the president's worth $8 billion. He can spend his own money on his campaign. You need to spend money on protecting yourself right now. And that's why I say, go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our lawsuit, contribute with tax-deductible contributions. I need to hire more lawyers. I need to hire more paralegals. I need to pay lawyers in this country and overseas to do a full court press, to bring the Chinese to their knees legally and peacefully, unlike the way they do it, which is in a violent way. They have accomplished with this virus, with this coronavirus, what they could have only have accomplished by sending nuclear missiles over the horizon. And they're doing it in this evil and clever way to destroy their adversaries, to put themselves in a better position to compete in the future as we're weak and they're strong. And God forbid something happens during this period. Don't think that the Iranians haven't thought that we're weak right now. Don't think that the North Koreans haven't thought about that. Certainly the Russians think about it. The Chinese think about it. These people are all in league together. Even the Cubans. There's probably still nuclear missiles left in Cuba that we aren't told about. Why is it we haven't done anything there for over 50 years? What's the problem? American politicians, American presidents. So we need to really unite right now. And as I've said many times, as Benjamin Franklin, our great founding father, said, unless we hang together, we'll all hang separately. So please go to Freedom Watch and contribute and join our class action lawsuits, freedomwatchusa.org. Share this radio show. Share my weekly podcast. Get the word out. You won't hear about this on Fox News. You won't hear about it. You didn't hear about Ben Stein's case. You didn't hear about the other cases that I brought. They discriminate against Larry Klayman and his clients because I've taken them on. This is a very unethical network, and I've been fighting with them now for 20 years. You don't see it, but I see it because I've had to deal with them. And even though they appear to be ideologically closer to us, they are a very sleazy network. Get up off the couch, join what we're doing, turn off Fox News, and let's get the job done. I'll be right back with Ben Stein.
Dangerous.
You don't care. Use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special prosecutor.
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with my friend and colleague and fellow patriot Ben Stein, a writer, economist, a lawyer, and actor extraordinaire. Ben was the one who got the ball rolling with regard to challenging the abridgment of civil liberties in our Constitution with regard to these stay-at-home orders, which he called a soft type of dictatorship. And in fact, just last Friday, an article was running on Associated Press with regard to Ben's lawsuit. It's been underreported, was not reported by Fox News. Others followed suit in various states, but Ben was the first. And I want to introduce you again to Ben Stein. And Ben, tell us why you filed it and where you think this thing's headed in terms of these soft core imprisonments of the American people. You're not against social distancing. You're not against good health habits like washing your hands, but you obviously took a stand against being interned in your own house.
Well, I took a stance against the police cruising the neighborhood looking for people in small groups. I mean, I live in Beverly Hills. People walk around here in little groups all the time, but there are police cruisers following them and looking at them to make, I guess, to make sure they're maintaining social distancing. I haven't seen or heard of any arrests yet in Beverly Hills. In Los Angeles itself, there have actually been people given citations for young people walking in groups of 3 or 4, and that's, to me, what I actually said in my article is it's a soft police state, and I don't see where in the Constitution that's allowed, and I don't see where in the Constitution it's allowed, especially to ban religious observance. That seems to me to be a bedrock constitutional right, and how they managed to get past that, I'm sure I don't know.
Well, you were very courageous in putting your foot forward first, Ben, as usual.
Oh, you're very kind. Actually, you're the lawyer on it. You're the one who's going to get yelled at.
As usual. But, hey, we're not afraid of judges, and we're not afraid of convention, and we're not afraid of the establishment either. which thinks they can do almost whatever they want and get away with it.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Larry, here's what's
also mentioned, you talked about this yesterday, what's going on with regard to illegal immigrants in this country.
Well, this is so amazing. We in this state, they're telling us we had a $20 billion rainy day fund that was going to carry us through any kind of emergency. Well, now they're saying that's going to be used up and then some, and we're giving all the rights that citizens get to illegal immigrants. So not only are they breaking the law, but they're going to get subsidized and paid off for breaking the law. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Why are they getting? They're going to get subsidized. I'm sure the Democrats are going to work it out so they get stimulus checks too. But why is it that we're taking in illegal immigrants and then paying them with money from American taxpayers when we're going to be running broke as broke can be because of all the costs of the coronavirus epidemic? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know where it is in the Constitution that the government can just spend money any way it feels like without any regard to whether or not a person is a citizen.
Well, that's particularly egregious given the fact that the Paycheck Protection Program has run out of money.
They've already run out of money?
They ran out of money yesterday, early.
Wow.
And people can't get compensation. So now they're giving money off to immigrants, but they're not paying our own people.
Well, this I know, Larry, that when we are done, when this crisis passes, as I hope God allows to happen, we're going to look at the books for this country. We're going to say, United States of America, you are bankrupt. And that's going to be a real, real problem. And we're bankrupt. We've become a police state, and this is not the same America. To drive down the streets of Beverly Hills or any part of Los Angeles, see them empty, see people looking over their shoulders to see if the police are watching them, that is a very scary thing. This is not the America that you or I grew up in or lived in most of our lives.
Well, and the scary thing, Ben, is that once we go down this route, it's going to come back. Now there's a precedent, not just with regard to police powers, but also with regard to going on the government dole. It's never going to be the same. The Democrats are loving this. The left is loving it. They know that they're socializing the country, and they're looking to this as a great opportunity to do that.
They're going to get Americans hooked on government checks. I mean, sorry for my throat being a little bit rough, but I've had a very busy morning. The ordinary citizen will go back to work and be a good guy about it, or a good girl about it, or a good woman about it. But there are going to be a lot of Americans who say, hey, I like this. I'm getting more money in unemployment plus stimulus plus bonuses from my state than I was getting when I was working. And they're not going to go back to work. And there's going to be a constant drain on the American pocketbook.
Absolutely, Ben. We're going to be right back with the third segment. I want to get your analysis on the economy. You are an expert on that. We'll be right back with Ben Stein.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with Ben Stein. Ben, give us your analysis of the situation in our economy today. Of course, you're most famous, but you're much more expert than even this for your previous hit Hollywood show, Ben Stein's Money. So tell us what's happening with the people's money right now and the state of our economy.
Well, the main thing is that we're bankrupting the country. I mean, at a certain point, we are simply going to say we can't pay our bills anymore. We're going to have to say to people who own government bonds, you're only going to get paid part of what you owe, or else we're going to stretch it out. Like if you had a 5-year bond, the government's going to say we'll pay you off in 10 years instead. Or if you had a bond where you're supposed to get 100 cents on the dollar, you'll get 97 cents on the dollar. There's going to be some kind of reckoning. Governments cannot go deeply, deeply, deeply into debt forever. Even the government, which has the ability to print money, cannot print money forever without there being some consequences. Right now, we've entered a state where we are living on printed fiat money instead of on real money. Right now, we've entered a state where taxes and revenues have absolutely nothing to do with expenditures, and that cannot lead to any good thing. I mean, a household cannot live in debt forever. A business cannot live in debt forever, and neither can a government. They can live in debt for a long time, but not forever. And it's a scary thing.
You raise a good point, Ben. For people that are listening, where is the government getting this money? Where does it come from?
They print it. I mean, the Federal Reserve prints it and gives it to the Treasury. And as long as people have the confidence in the government, that money will be accepted as good. But at a certain point, people are going to say, this is not real money, and we're not going to accept it, or we're going to demand some kind of backing for it. It may well be that we made a mistake long ago when we went off the gold standard and had absolutely no gold backing. I'm not sure that was a mistake, but it might have been a mistake. But we cannot go into debt like this forever. I mean, this is not. There are no free lunches for governments, just the same as there are no free lunches for people or businesses.
We're going to have to pay it back, and that's going to be our kids and grandkids. We'll
never pay it back. We'll be very lucky if we don't default and we don't go into bankruptcy. Argentina went into bankruptcy a while ago. Russia went into bankruptcy a while ago. I think the day is coming when the U.S. is going to have to go into bankruptcy. But I don't know what the alternative is. I do know that the idea that everyone should get a stimulus check, even those who are still employed, is very questionable. I'm not quite sure why people who are still employed should get a stimulus check. I just don't understand that.
There was an article last Friday, Ben, that the communist China, is going to come out of this better vis-a-vis other countries in the world, that their economy will benefit relative to what's happening in the United States and Europe and South America, Africa, and the rest of Asia. That would seem to suggest that this leak from what now has been established to be a laboratory in Wuhan, China, a lot of people think, including yours truly, that this is a bioweapons laboratory that has a dual use, that leak was intentional because the Chinese are benefiting by this in the long run. And they're very shrewd. They're very patient people. The communist Chinese, the Chinese people in this country are good people, and so are the Asian Americans. You once told me while we were eating Korean barbecue, bring us more Asians. That was Ben Stein. And I agree with you, the hardworking capitalists. But these are evil people that run the Chinese Politburo, and they obviously know where this thing is headed. And that helps explain whether this was negligent or intentional, the release, and also the holding back of information that would allow us to come up with a cure much sooner. Any thoughts on that in terms of China, its economy vis-a-vis our own?
Smart people. I think they're terribly evil people. I think they're lying through their teeth about every aspect of this. It wouldn't surprise me if the virus came from that lab and if it were released intentionally. But I don't know what we do about it. Now the virus is out there. We're not going to start sending nuclear missiles to bomb China because they'll bomb us back. So we can't do anything about that. I mean, but it seems to me there's no hope for them either. The virus is going to attack them either. They're lying and saying that they've cut down the spread and there are no new infections. Clearly that's a lie. I mean, it's unequivocally a lie. So because there's no stopping this virus. It doesn't discriminate on the basis of whether you're an Asian or a black person or a Caucasian person. There's no stopping it, so except to stay away from it. So let's just say China did release it, and I think they probably made a serious mistake by doing it. Although I'm always reminded of the Mao Zedong, who, when talking about nuclear war with the U.S., said, well, suppose we do lose 100 million people, we've got 900 million more. And so I'm kind of thinking about that. If the Chinese themselves, well, suppose we do lose 100 million people, we've got lots more. I mean, they're a country that's very rich in people, although they're not very rich in young people, but they're very rich in people. Maybe they thought this would be a weapon that could be used against the West, and it would hurt the West desperately, but it wouldn't hurt them that much.
Well, of course, Wuhan, China is a city of over 11 million people, like New York City. So if they lose a couple 100,000, to them, no big deal. They don't value human life. Remember Tiananmen Square? They killed 10,000 of their own people. They've killed more than 10,000 since then. Doesn't matter to them. They used to kill female babies. Maybe they're still doing it because of overpopulation, so they thought. So they knocked off the women in that country because the men are more valued. They can work harder, that kind of thing in theory. So these are people that really don't value human life. I guess they're probably second in line, after the Muslims, who probably are the least in terms of valuing human life. But
they're a very, very dangerous opponent. My friend and boss, Richard Nixon, opened relations with them. At the time, it seemed like a great idea, and I think for a while it worked out incredibly well. But I don't think anyone foresaw they would become so powerful and so dangerous. And they are very powerful and very dangerous, and I don't know what we're going to do about it. I don't like the fact that some guy in a laboratory in a city that 99% of Americans have never heard of has turned America from a free, open democracy into a police state. But let me add one more thing, Larry, if I may. The people are already rising against the police state. I live part of the time in Beverly Hills and part of the time in Malibu, and I had a problem with my house in Malibu and had to go out there yesterday. And the roads are jammed. People are ignoring the stay-at-home order. So that just makes a mockery of the government for some people, and other people are staying at home and they're terrified. So for some people, it's a dangerous, scary police state. For other people, it's a joke. In any event, government doesn't come out looking very good. They're either a joke or they're a danger.
Well, Ben, when you filed your lawsuit in Sacramento against the governor, it wasn't too long after that he said, well, I'm really not going to lock people up. So you had an impact. Okay, so I
don't know if it's because of me, but I thank God that he's not locking people up. If he were locking people up, it would I think there would be a rebellion.
Now, you talked about, what we can do vis-a-vis the damage from China. There's your class action lawsuit. People can join it by going to freedomwatchusa.org. And we have our own class action on another issue, which is the damage that China has caused. I filed a case in the Northern District of Texas. That's Dallas. We already have well over 1,000 plaintiffs, putative plaintiffs, for that. I filed a criminal case in The Hague at the International Criminal Court to have the Chinese leadership indicted, tried, convicted, and locked up. And they very well might do it, because this is one area where the Europeans, frankly, since their ox is being gored, support this kind of thing. I got a response within 48 hours from the International Criminal Court that they're processing the complaint to decide whether to begin an investigation. And I have a case that I filed in Israel, and the Israelis are very resourceful. They already have whistleblowers that can testify to the fact that, in fact, this was a bioweapon. So, yeah, we're fighting back. But I want to get your take on why the president, hasn't been stronger on China, why he simply calls it a Chinese virus, then walks off, sends out fundraising emails saying, his campaign, contribute money because he's taking on China. I don't see that he's taking on China on this issue at all. Am I wrong?
Well, he's not taking on China on this issue. What could he do about that, Larry? I mean, he's not going to bomb Wuhan. He is taking steps to bringing medical supply business and pharmaceutical manufacturing back to the U.S., and I think that's a big, big step. I think compared to any possible alternative in the Democrat Party, he's doing a fabulous job with China, and he's holding them to account more than any president has since Lyndon Johnson. So I agree with that.
I agree with that, Ben.
I fall with him about that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I personally support the president, Freedom Watch.
Oh, very much so. Very, very much so.
To protect him. But what he could be doing is freezing Chinese assets in this country right now, hundreds of billions of dollars. So when we get a jury verdict in Dallas or elsewhere, we can attach those assets. He should be freezing them just like we did with Iran. That's the minimum.
I think with respect, I think that's too provocative. We did that to Japan, and in 1940 or 41, and the result was that they bombed Pearl Harbor. So I think that's too much of a step to take. Although it's obviously worth thinking of more than the few seconds I just thought about it. But I think he should call people's attention to the fact that we have allowed ourselves to become addicted to cheap Chinese labor, and we've got to pull ourselves together and start doing things in this country, just like we've become addicted to stimulus checks. Look, I was with a friend, a big, big, big conservative, very, very smart man, whom we both know very well, and he was extremely upset, almost in tears, about the fact that he had not gotten a stimulus check. He took it very personally, and I think these stimulus checks are going to be the heroin of America. America. People are going to become addicted to them, and they're going to give up working.
Absolutely. I mean, already we've seen a big push left. Bernie Sanders didn't make it across the finish line. Somebody potentially even worse, who's essentially brain dead at this point, Joe Biden, is waiting in the wings. But, the fact is that the American people, millennials in particular, are not exactly, many of them, not all of them, but most hardworking people. I mean, we know
some are incredibly hardworking, but look, take any person and say to him, "You want to stay home and smoke dope and watch TV, or do you want to go to work? And we'll pay you the same for either one." Well, some are going to go to work, and some are going to say, "I'll stay home and get high instead." And we're paying them to do that. And don't kid yourself. This first round of the 1,200 is just going to be the beginning. That's going to go on and on as long as Nancy Pelosi can draw breath.
Well, that's absolutely the case. And Pelosi now is blocking the increased funding for the Paycheck Protection Program. I think, it's going to come back and bite her in the face.
Well, she's blocking funding for helping small business, which is the main employer of new workers in America, and that's really a disaster. I mean, if small business collapses in America, then America collapses.
Well, she's going to cave. They're taking it as far as they can. But at this point, the Republicans need to do what they need to do to get money to these small businesses, and even if they have to...
Well, and to the big businesses too, Larry. I mean, people say to me, "Oh, so much of the money is going to big business." Well, the big business doesn't take it and spend it on call girls. They take it and open factories and employ people.
Well, maybe some of them do actually spend it on call girls. Who knows? But
maybe. I don't know. I doubt if they do that. I think they're pretty clean.
The disciples of Jeffrey Epstein. But, the thing is here, Ben, is that the American people need to suck it up right now, is that we need to do it for ourselves. We're trying to do that at Freedom Watch, and you've done it. And Freedom Watch represents you in the lawsuit against Governor Gavin Newsom. And I hope people will go to freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up for these class actions. Support us with tax-deductible contributions. We need to get bigger. I'm also putting together a team because I'm hearing from countries all over the world: India, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Lesotho, Greece, Argentina, Italy, France. Lawyers from all over the world want to do the same thing in their country and bring class action lawsuits. So I'm working with them. And our Israeli counsel are really sharp people. I mean, they've already got people that are prepared to testify in front of the Israeli court in Jerusalem that they have firsthand information. I'm going to have to do that in confidence that this was a bioweapon that was being developed in China. I might add the Israelis are a lot more resourceful than we are when it comes to intelligence, or perhaps our intelligence community just kept it from the president to set him up to try to have him removed from office for the third try after the Russian collusion investigation.
I put past the entrenched bureaucracy in this country.
No, it's unbelievable. We're at the point, Ben, and we've only got another 15 seconds where it's what they used to say about lawyers. If they're moving their mouth, they must be lying. Well, unfortunately, many in government are lawyers. You're an honest lawyer. I'm an honest lawyer.
All the time. Anyway, we've all got to go. So I'll say, God bless you, Larry. Good luck with your various projects, and let's keep America free.
The same to you, my good friend. Be safe.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now the verdict, ladies and gentlemen. There have been other developments this week. Roger Stone, who defamed my client Jerry Corsi and me, fearful that Corsi was going to testify against him in the Russian collusion special counsel Robert Mueller investigation, just trashed my client, hurt him in terms of his reputation and economically. He tried to do the same thing to me, and we pushed back. This self-styled dirty trickster, this person who admires the mafia, this person who, frankly, has committed crimes. I mean, he's been convicted on 7 counts of perjury, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. He's just been ordered to report to federal prison in 2 weeks. Now, I'm saying this because The president, at this point in his tenure as president, I, Larry Klayman, hope that he's reelected. I can't say that as the head of Freedom Watch, but I say that personally. I support him in that way. But I also, at Freedom Watch, we defend him, because we're doing what's right with regard to the legal system. But if he continues to associate with people like Roger Stone, like Paul Manafort, like Cohen, his former lawyer, like Rick Gates and others, there's an old expression that you are who you associate with. And when you associate with these kinds of people, you start to smell. And this is going to be a warning to the president in terms of pardoning Roger Stone. Let him do the time. He'll get out before 40 months in any event. But let him do the time, because it's not justifiable. You don't understand this. To lie under oath in a court proceeding or in front of Congress or elsewhere, it's not justifiable to threaten witnesses that you're going to harm their dog or harm them or file bar complaints against their best friends, as happened with Randy Credico. Margaret Kunstler was the friend. She didn't do anything to Roger Stone. And Roger Stone has instigated them against me in the past through other people in retaliation. They're completely worthless. They're frivolous. But this is who this person is. And do not cry for Argentina like Eva Perón for Roger Stone. But the warning is to the president is that you need to associate with better people. And guess who now is the spokesperson for the Department of Health and Human Services? Roger Stone's right-hand shill, surrogate, Michael Caputo, who was my press secretary back when I ran for the Senate. I let him go. I let Roger go. Roger was representing Al Sharpton, if you can believe that, without telling me at the same time he was supposed to be handling my campaign. So do not cry for Roger Stone, Argentina, or United States. But this is what we need to do. We need to focus on what really matters right now. What really matters is the coronavirus. The president needs to clean up his associations. He needs to get himself reelected. He needs to do a good job here. And we're helping the president by holding China accountable. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. 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 Contribute to our class action lawsuits. Contribute to our criminal case in The Hague, Holland, to our cases around the world, such as in Israel, and sign up for our class actions. Because God helps those that help themselves. I'll tell you something here, and the thought has crossed my mind. Various times in the history of the world, God has sent a message to the people. God has cleaned house, whether it was at Sodom and Gomorrah or whether it was with the Egyptians in the days leading up to Passover that caused Moses to leave, let my people go. God is most likely sending us a message here. Clean up our act ethically, morally, and in terms of what we're doing. And if you're a Christian, and I'm a Jewish Christian, you believe that people will go to heaven if they accept Jesus, and that they will go to heaven, if you're Jewish, if you live by the 10 Commandments and you live by, a good way and treat other people as you would be treated. But right now, God is looking to us to say, what are you going to do about this? Are you going to clean your act up? Are you going to take on the Chinese and hold them accountable in my name? And that's why we need to do whatever we can to help the underprivileged, to help the sick, to help the infirm, but also to help ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. And go to freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up for our class actions. Contribute with tax-deductible contributions. I'm not saying this because I'm trying to make money. I'm not rich. Believe me. I've done what I do over my career, what I did over my career, and what I'm doing because I believe in it. And if I had actually sold out like most lawyers, I'd be a millionaire right now. But I'm not. In any event, I want you to stay safe. I want you to protect your family. I want this country to survive. And I want to thank you for listening to me. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Thank you for listening to me.